Oh, we got air coming out of the cylinder over there. Looks like it's all out. Look at that. That looks good, huh? That's way faster. Welcome back to the shop today. I tried to ride my Sport the other day on video. I had to switch out back tires because it kept spinning off the rim. I do not have a bead lock on a scooter. It really needs a bead lock. But I got a fuel leak. So this thing needs some fuel lines. So we're gonna start out with some fuel lines on this. I haven't really been wanting to film this thing too much, mainly because it's more of like my prized Goped. Like, I love this one to death. This is like my favorite scooter out of all scooters I own. This is my favorite one. Man, because I have the most time into it. This is the second Goped I've ever owned in my entire life. My first one, I broke the frame down here. It cracked. But what I want to do is I want to put this flow meter in, and I want to see how much this little pump here is pushing. And then what we're going to do is I bought an electric pump from O'Reilly's. This is the generic windshield washer pump. And once I posted this thing actually online, a lot of guys have reached out to me and they're like, hey man, that pulse pump that you have, which is this one, is mainly designed for RC boats, and it's used when you're using raw water cooling, which normally I guess the warmest lake that I guess I would ever experience is maybe 70 degrees at the most, I would assume. So it's designed to always be pushing 70 degrees through through your engine. So it's like, I don't know, it's not using 90 to 100 degree water coming back from your radiator to cool down your motor. So they say that you should use an electric pump because it moves more efficiently, and these don't really push enough volume to even cool that motor when I'm in a closed loop system like this. So we're going to put a flow meter in, and we're going to, maybe I'll just put it right there. If I didn't break it. Put the flow meter in here and see how much this thing's actually pumping, and then we'll switch over to this guy and see how much it pumps. But first things first, let's change these fuel lines. So I'm not even sure how old the fuel lines are on this scooter. They're supposed to be a nice bright yellow color. Oh, they're hard. And the other one's supposed to be a nice clear blue color, and they're not even transparent anymore. So as you can kind of see here, we're leaking right around where the fuel line actually penetrates through the fuel tank. And I actually have my lines in backwards. This is actually the supply line, and it's supposed to be at the bottom of the tank with the filter on it. And the return line is going to the bottom of the tank. I'm gonna grab some fuel line, and we'll get these out of here, and I'll show you guys how I put fuel line in the easy way. So what I like to do is I don't cut my fuel line until the tank is mounted to the scooter. The reason for that is I want to make sure that I have my fuel line enough length, long or short enough. Originally there's two holes in here that the factory Goped would actually run the hose through the frame out the other side, so there wasn't anything floating around on the deck area. I like the shortest runs possible, so I just run mine straight to the carb with enough to where there's no actual kinks. So since I'm gonna put the blue one, which is our supply line, in the bottom first, I'm just gonna shove this thing in there so I can either get it with my finger or grab it with a hook. Keep shoving. I think I can get it with my finger. Maybe not. Maybe time for my hook's long enough. I've been cutting my hook, using it for other projects. Keep shoving, Aaron, keep shoving. It'll eventually get to you. All right. Now the hose is out. Goes on the end of the hose. The supply line. Got a little in-tank fuel filter here. If we can carefully get the fuel line off of it. Probably should change it, but I don't really have a problem with my carbs getting dirty because of fuel, or what is in the fuel. So we'll just cut the fuel line off of there. Fully seat this into your fuel line. Oh man. Get in there! Should be like that. Hope you can see that. I don't know. I guess I'll find out when I go to edit this. And you pull this out until it gets tight. And then you only pull it just enough to wedge the filter into the tank. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm looking at. That might be a little too far. But you can see the filter stubbed through the tank. So what that does is that puts where the hose is around the filter, it forces it to squeeze the tank to where it can't leak, can't twist it. So now it's tight. So we're gonna leave the fuel line long. So now on the return side, whoa, come back here, you. Kind of the same scenario, but it has, instead of it being a fuel filter, it just has a little coupling. Let me cut the stuff off. Oh, it's race gas. It smells so good. It's all over my fingers. The whole time this scooter has been alive, it has seen nothing but VP 110 for its whole life. And that's probably going to change here soon. I'm going to try to adjust the tune to run 93 in it. I mean, it's a stock motor. It's got CDI ignition on it, which is why it revs so crazily and has so much power. But anyway, back to the tank. So you get this little coupling that fits inside of here. Same process as the other line. You just shove it in the hole, cut flush, just shove it in there till it ends up somewhere where you can reach it with your finger or your hook. It's right there. And we want to push this thing here all the way in. A lot of times you might have to add a little bit of lubricant to this little guy to get him to go all the way in. But I like to push it against stuff. It's easier on your fingers that way. Just kind of smush it into the workbench. That's about all you need. Looks like it's uncircumcised. And then you pull it, just like the fuel filter. Pull it until it starts to peak. There we go, just like that. Now they're tight. So then we'll take these lines. Before I mount that, I need to get my old lines off of my carburetor. So I'm gonna just slice them down the side. Now that's out of there, okay. Let's go ahead and bolt this thing back on. So return it through the snip. Hook it up. Oh my God, it's tough when they're new. All right, put the fuel back in. Then we'll prime her up. Bada bing, bada boom. Happy scooter. The challenge when all my fuel lines leak is the way these are stacked on my stand back there. This one drips on all of them. So it's kind of a priority thing to do. All right, so next we're going to cut in our flow meter, find a way to prime all the air out of it, and build the electronics to run the pump. Yeah. So I've never actually drained the coolant in this thing. I didn't set up a way to even get the coolant out of it after I put it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if we can cut, and I think I want this to sit on the bottom side. It would be easier to get air out if I can float it all up. But this is going to show what's coming out of the pump and going into the motor. Because the way I ran this is that this pump is always pulling cold coolant or cool coolant from the bottom of the radiator and pushing it into the bottom of the motor. And it leaves out the top of the motor to the top of the radiator. I can't remember. It's been so long. I'm not tracing it out right now. So let's get the pressure out of it. Just open her up. And I'm going to put this back on in hopes that it forms some sort of vacuum to kind of hold it in there. And I think I'm going to try to cut this up high here. Hopefully it doesn't explode. Oh man, why don't this cut it? Look at that. And see if we can wedge it in. Probably should have did the other side first. Wedge this in here. Hit the pipe? Maybe. More wedge. Ugh. I hope I can pull that back out because that's for sure going to touch the pipe. Well, maybe I'll just twist it and add a zip tie to hold it or it doesn't hit the pipe. I'll shorten it. I shorten it. This is just Fly Racing's 1/4 inch inner diameter blue fuel line, which I love their blue fuel line. Everybody else hates it because it hardens up after a while, but I like it because it's pretty. Alright, so I had a pulse generator that I'd used before on this. It's one of those little plungers. It's used for like, not a plunger, but like a big syringe used for like juicing up a turkey. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe, maybe not. I'm gonna get that, hook up to this, simulate its own pulse, so that way we can move some coolant and hopefully get all the air out of that and then out of the motor. When I really need to just put something in line to just pump it out with an electric pump. So we're gonna see how difficult this is. You guys can see how difficult this is with me. And what I went through to actually get the air out of the motor the first time I built this. Let me get that, I'll be right back. So let's make some pulses. Well, we moved it out of here, moved it out of the cylinder, I believe, and now it's just sitting down here before it even gets to my air chamber. And the air bubble just ran back up. And that's not moving very fast at all. I don't know if you guys can see that. Anyway, let's see what happens if we run it like this. Well, that is not very fast. Now that I can actually see that, I am not impressed. Thing's already warm. It's hot. Let me temperature down. So I was just idling a few little dry revs, and we're at about 130. Let me scan across this whole thing. Yeah, 131, 124. I mean, we're all over the place as far as temperature. But we're in the 120s, just idling, hanging out here in the garage. Top of this thing. 87 at the bottom, 84, 94, 93. So we got about a 10 degree temperature differential across the radiator. I think it's pretty good. All right, now what we need to do is, there's junk in my way. We got some 18.2 here. We got a connector, another connector. These are 9-volt battery connectors, and I'm going to use these. I'm going to do 9-volt by itself at first, and I'm going to bridge it to make 18 volts. These two little gold boys here, these are what we're going to use to connect to the prongs inside this water pump, because I did not buy a connector for the pump. So we'll just wedge those tabs on there for now, and then we'll hook these tabs will hook to this, right? And then this is going to hook to the electronics box with the switch. So I'm going to put the 9-volt batteries and everything in here for now. But this is just so I can disconnect the battery box, take it off the scooter whenever I'm not using it, and I can change batteries easily and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and build all this. I'm not going to make you watch it, but I'll build all this, and then we'll put it on the scooter and replace the pump that's on there with this guy and see what our engine temperatures look like. I'll see you in a second. So I have this jerry rigged together. We got one 9-volt here. We got negative going straight to the pump. Positive goes to my switch. And I did a little test run with this, and it pumps pretty good. So let me turn this on. And once it's primed, there she goes. Oops, too far. Pulled out too far. Come on. Come on. What did I do? I break it? Oh no, here she goes. She's trying. But once it is primed, that thing moves quite a bit of coolant. But I think this single 9-volt's already starting to struggle, and I don't think it's going to run very long. Alright, sounds pretty good though. I would imagine that this is quite a load for a single 9-volt battery. This pump's ready for 12 volts. So I want to try to splice together 18 volts and see what that does. Alright, so what I did is I wrapped this thing with a bunch of inner tube, and I zip tied it to the existing bracket. I have the inlet zip tied and the outlet zip tied and the flow meter installed. I have not turned this on yet. As you can see, we still have air in it. I'm going to flip the switch. I'm going to hope this thing primes quickly, and we'll see how fast this thing actually runs compared to the pulse powered one. Here we go. Holy moly. Oh, we got air coming out of the cylinder over there. Looks like it's all out. Look at that. That looks good, huh? That's way faster. It's kind of impressive, actually. Oh, and pump speeding up. That's weird. It just sped up on its own out of nowhere. A little bit of air. Man, she's moving, huh? Let me try to start this thing and we'll see what temperatures we get out of it. Well, it seems to be a little bit cooler until I hammer on it, but I have no air going across this radiator right now. We didn't have any air before either. Definitely moving a lot more coolant than we were the first time. And there's definitely a temperature difference on the hoses. I smoked myself out in here, good God. This is the pulse that goes to the other pump, and I told myself I was going to plug that before I ran it, and that's why it started up and ran so lean. I got an air leak right here. You guys watched me plug it, and as I was plugging it, the idle started to fall because it was starting to fall rich. I need to get a bead lock for this, and I can do some street rides with it and see how well it'll work doing a street ride. But I'll put the other tire back on it and mount this box somewhere and take it up for a ride during the daytime next time I got a sunny day. But it is currently raining and dark. So that's it for this video. Stay tuned for me riding this thing. See ya.